Hey guys, tonight we're about to take a journey, not to a faraway land, but into the depths of ancient wisdom. Picture this. You're standing in a vast, sun-drenched temple in the heart of Egypt, the faint scent of frankincense lingering in the air as priests whisper sacred chants. The sound of rushing water from a nearby stream blends with the subtle rustling of palm trees. You might be thinking, this sounds like the perfect escape from the modern chaos, right? But here's the catch. You might think it's peaceful, but back then, people had their own share of stress, worry, and anxiety. In fact, these ancient civilizations were so aware of human anxiety that they dedicated entire rituals and practices to reduce it. And surprisingly, they might just have figured out something we've overlooked today. You probably won't survive this ancient journey, at least not in the literal sense. But trust me, you'll leave with something much more valuable, a deeper understanding of how the ancients sought peace, and perhaps how we can do the same in our own chaotic lives. Before you settle into your cozy bed, take a quick moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're truly into the deep dive I'm about to take you on tonight. Oh, and don't forget to drop your location and the time of day you're listening in from. It's always fascinating to hear where in the world people are tuning in. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's go back, way back. Imagine you're standing in the middle of an ancient Egyptian temple. The sunlight streams through the stone columns, casting long shadows on the floor. You feel an overwhelming sense of peace. But this serenity wasn't just for aesthetics. This was a place designed for one thing: peace of mind. It wasn't just the beauty of the surroundings or the grandeur of the architecture. It was the belief that the gods themselves dwelled here, offering protection and calming the spirits of those who entered. And believe it or not, these sacred spaces weren't just for worship. They were a sanctuary, a refuge from the anxiety and stress of life. Now, here's where things get interesting. Ancient Egyptians weren't the only ones who realized the profound effect a sacred space could have on the mind. Across cultures, from Mesopotamia to the Far East, people were building tranquil spaces with the same goal in mind: to reduce the anxiety of daily life. And they were also using rituals, not just for religious reasons, but for mental and emotional well-being. But it wasn't always as simple as sitting quietly in a temple and hoping peace would wash over you. No, the real work came in the form of ancient practices designed to ground the body and calm the mind, something that, centuries later, we're still trying to figure out in our modern world. Historians still argue whether the Egyptians saw their rituals as more than cultural traditions or as truly transformative practices for mental peace. Some say it was a blend of both: sacred rituals meant to connect the people with something greater than themselves. Others believe it was purely a social construct, a way to keep the masses under control through the promise of divine protection. But one thing we can't deny: these ancient peoples understood something fundamental that many of us are still trying to learn today. In a world full of chaos and uncertainty, the need for inner peace was just as urgent then as it is now. So, what did these ancient civilizations do to achieve this elusive peace? How did they transform their stress into serenity? Well, to start with, they didn't simply hope for peace. They actively sought it through ritual sacred spaces, and, believe it or not, specific practices designed to quiet the mind. For instance, Egyptian priests would lead people in meditation like chants, focusing their energy on connecting with the divine. The goal was simple: to quiet the internal chatter of the mind and find a moment of stillness. Can you imagine that? In a time when the world was far more unpredictable, they were already onto something many of us are just now rediscovering. Peace isn't something that just happens. It's something we cultivate. And these temples weren't just places of worship. They were carefully constructed to support a calming atmosphere. The use of architecture wasn't just about beauty. It was about creating an environment conducive to peace. Every element was designed with intention, from the soft echoes of prayers in the air to the rhythmic flow of water nearby. The walls, often painted with scenes of calm, were meant to remind the people of the higher truths and the stability of the gods, reinforcing the sense of tranquility as they entered. These spaces were a refuge, and the rituals conducted within them helped to ground the people, transforming their anxieties into calm. But let's not stop with the Egyptians. Around the same time, other cultures were developing their own unique ways of finding peace. In Mesopotamia, for example, the people believed in the power of sacred gardens. These lush, serene spaces were designed not just for relaxation, but for the spiritual healing of the mind and body. Similarly, in India, the roots of meditation began to take form, though it wasn't until later that the world would understand just how powerful this practice could be in reducing anxiety. Now, let's pause for a moment and think about our modern world. Do we have these sacred spaces today? Sure, we have quiet rooms in offices, and some lucky folks have the luxury of a garden to escape to. But the real question is, do we actively create these spaces for peace? In today's hustle and bustle lifestyle, we've become so accustomed to noise and distraction that we rarely take a moment to truly pause and ground ourselves. But maybe it's time we take a note from the ancient Egyptians, or the Greeks, or the Romans, and start designing our lives with more intention. One thing we can learn from these ancient practices is that peace doesn't come by accident. It requires space, physical space, mental space, and emotional space. In the coming sections, we'll explore how other ancient cultures developed rituals that allowed them to control anxiety and achieve peace, not just for a fleeting moment, but for the long haul. Whether through philosophy, nature, or mindfulness, these ancient methods still resonate with us today. But remember, it wasn't just about going to a temple or sitting quietly in a garden. These rituals had to be practiced regularly. Just as you wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, these ancient peoples knew that peace required consistent effort. It was a muscle that needed to be exercised. So, as we continue, think about your own life. How often do you dedicate time to truly still your mind and embrace peace? Could it be that, like the ancients, you too could benefit from a little more intentional quiet in your life? As we delve deeper, we'll explore the role of ancient philosophy, where wisdom about peace was written down for future generations. We'll journey through the stillness of the Buddhist teachings that have transcended time, bringing us back to a simple truth: peace is always within reach. It's just a matter of finding it. So, stay with me on this ancient path. It's not just about the temples or the gardens. It's about what happens when you quiet your mind, let go of the chaos, and make room for something much more profound. We'll discover how ancient practices can help us today in a world that desperately needs more stillness and peace. Now that we've dipped our toes into the tranquil waters of ancient Egypt, let's take a deeper dive into the roots of anxiety and how ancient people first confronted their fears. Imagine the harsh realities of life thousands of years ago. No modern medicine, no technology to distract or comfort. It was a time when the unknown could strike at any moment, from storms and famines to disease and war. Anxiety, it seems, has always been a companion to humanity, and the ancients weren't immune. But instead of letting fear control them, they found creative ways to manage it. The question is, how did they do it? At the core of this ancient battle against anxiety was something simple yet profound: the acknowledgement that fear is natural, but it doesn't have to rule your life. For many ancient cultures, the key to peace lay in transforming fear into something manageable, something that could be confronted head on. In the world of ancient Greece, the Stoics were particularly skilled in this. These philosophers taught that anxiety came from the human tendency to fear what was beyond our control: death, fortune, fate. In other words, anxiety was often a byproduct of our inability to accept life as it is. This idea might sound familiar to us today, given how often we're told to let go of things beyond our control. But back then, it was a revolutionary way of thinking. The Stoics believed that the path to peace was through acceptance and mental discipline. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This notion didn't just apply to material goods. It was a mindset, a way of freeing oneself from the shackles of desire, fear, and anxiety. If you were to embrace this philosophy, it would mean accepting that things would happen in life, some good, some bad, but the only true control you have is over your own reactions. This kind of mental fortitude, these strategies for controlling anxiety, were not just theoretical ideas. They were lived practices that helped countless people cope with the uncertainties of their time. But it wasn't just Greek philosophers who had something to say about anxiety. In ancient Mesopotamia, the people looked to their gods for answers. In the face of overwhelming uncertainty, they didn't turn inward for solace. Instead, they invoked the divine. Temples and sacred rituals were a way to ensure favor from the gods, bringing them peace of mind in a world where the unpredictability of life could easily lead to despair. They believed that anxiety was a divine sign, something to be read and understood, like a message from the heavens. The gods, they thought, were always watching, guiding them through the storms of life. But much like the Egyptians, the practice of these rituals was as much about mental focus and calming the spirit as it was about seeking divine favor. There's something deeply human about this drive to understand and control fear, and it's something that transcends time and culture. In fact, it's fascinating to think that these ancient peoples might have known more about managing anxiety than we give them credit for. Historians still debate whether these rituals were truly effective in the way we think of modern therapies. But there's no denying that these practices helped calm minds and gave people a sense of control in a world that often seemed uncontrollable. So, what exactly did these ancient people do to manage their anxiety? Let's dive deeper into the practical methods they used, some of which might surprise you. For the Greeks, it was the art of self-reflection. The idea wasn't to escape fear or to repress it, but to face it head on, understand it, and then choose how to respond. Ancient writings tell us that many people practiced what we'd now call mindfulness, an awareness of the present moment, coupled with an acceptance of life as it is. This, according to the Stoics, was the key to peace. And while it might sound like an oversimplification to say, don't worry about things beyond your control, there's a profound truth hidden in that simplicity. On the other hand, the Mesopotamians, in their search for peace, turned to more external means, rituals, prayers, and offerings. They believed that appeasing the gods could offer a reprieve from the anxieties of life. It wasn't so much a mental discipline, like the Stoics practiced, but rather a way of gaining external comfort. They would offer sacrifices, seek divine counsel, and perform ceremonies, all with the goal of quieting their internal fears by aligning themselves with the divine order. The notion was that peace could be found not just in the mind, but also in the rituals that connected the people to something greater than themselves. And then there's the mystery of the ancient Egyptians, who, as we've already discussed, created peaceful spaces, temples, and gardens that served as refuges for the mind. But what's equally intriguing is how they also turned to practical solutions to manage their fears. Rituals were a part of daily life, but so were herbal remedies, and even the use of music to calm the nerves. Imagine a time when music wasn't just entertainment, but a powerful tool for healing, a calming melody to ease the soul and reduce the stresses of everyday life. But despite these differences, one thing was clear. Ancient people understood that managing anxiety required more than just willpower. It required a system. It required habits, rituals, and environments that reinforced peace on a daily basis. For us today, it's easy to think that our modern-day coping mechanisms, like breathing exercises or mindfulness practices, are new inventions. But in reality, these are just modern adaptations of much older practices, ones that have been tried, tested, and refined by ancient cultures for millennia. The fascinating thing about these ancient methods is that many of them still hold relevance today. When we look at Stoicism, or the calming rituals of ancient civilizations, we see the roots of modern practices like mindfulness, meditation, and even cognitive behavioral therapy. These ancient ideas were ahead of their time, offering practical solutions to manage anxiety that we're only just rediscovering now. Historians still argue about the specifics of these practices, how exactly they worked, and whether they were truly successful in quelling anxiety. Some point out that the effectiveness of these methods may have been less about the rituals themselves and more about the mindset they instilled. After all, if you truly believed that your fears could be managed through divine favor, ritual, or self-discipline, then your anxiety might have been lessened simply by your faith in the process. But regardless of the debate, there's a timeless truth we can take from all of this. The search for peace, the struggle against anxiety, is as old as humanity itself. These ancient cultures were simply looking for a way to quiet the noise in their minds, to find moments of stillness in a world full of chaos. And isn't that what we're all seeking today, in our modern world, full of noise, stress, and uncertainty, whether it's through mindfulness, music, or rituals. The methods may change, but the goal remains the same: to calm the anxious mind and find peace within. Now that we've explored how ancient civilizations began to confront the anxieties that plagued them, let's turn our attention to the heart of ancient Greece, where philosophy wasn't just a way to understand the world, it was a practical tool for calming the mind. If you've ever found yourself spiraling into anxious thoughts or worrying about the future, imagine being in the sandals of a Stoic philosopher like Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus, who taught that peace could be found in mastering one's mind. These ancient thinkers didn't just theorize about the world, they gave us practical techniques for managing fear and anxiety. And surprisingly, much of their wisdom has trickled down through the centuries to become a cornerstone of modern psychological practice. Picture yourself sitting in a dusty amphitheater, surrounded by the sounds of the Athenian marketplace, while a philosopher stands before you, offering this simple yet profound advice: what is beyond your control, let it go. Sounds too simple, right? But this was the Stoic approach, a radical shift in how people viewed their anxieties. They believed that stress and fear came from one basic mistake: we worry about things we cannot control. This includes everything from the actions of others to external circumstances, like a storm or a war. The Stoics, however, didn't encourage passive resignation. Instead, they encouraged action in the areas we can control, specifically our thoughts, emotions, and reactions. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that external events are not what cause our anxiety. Instead, it's our reaction to those events that leads to stress. According to him, anxiety is a result of believing that we have control over things that are beyond our reach. Imagine for a moment how freeing this could be, no longer feeling burdened by events beyond your control, but instead focusing solely on how you choose to respond. It sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Yet, this was the essence of Stoic thought. The only true power we have is how we choose to view and react to the world around us. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Historians still argue whether these ancient Stoics truly found peace, or if their philosophy was just a form of mental gymnastics that allowed them to cope with the harsh realities of their time. Some suggest that the Stoics created a philosophy so self-contained, so focused on self-discipline, that it allowed them to endure hardships without succumbing to anxiety. Others argue that Stoicism's focus on controlling one's emotions might have led to a lack of expression, perhaps suppressing anxiety rather than confronting it fully. Still, there's no denying that Stoicism became a powerful tool for those who sought calm in a tumultuous world. But the Greek philosophers weren't alone in their search for peace. Across the world, in India, a different kind of peace was being explored through meditation and mindfulness, two practices that would eventually reach the Western world centuries later. In ancient India, the roots of meditation were planted in spiritual practices, with the aim of connecting the body, mind, and spirit in harmony. Imagine sitting cross-legged under a banyan tree in ancient India, your breath slow and deep, your mind quiet, as you focus on the present moment. This kind of mindfulness was designed to clear the clutter from the mind, to reduce the noise and anxiety of daily life, and to open up space for peace. What's fascinating about these ancient practices both Stoicism and early meditation is how they both aimed at one core goal: the reduction of anxiety by focusing on the present moment. It doesn't matter if you're in the midst of a busy marketplace in Athens or sitting peacefully under a tree in India. Both philosophies advocated for stepping away from the chaos of the world and instead choosing what you could control: your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. In a world as uncertain as the ancient one, this concept of controlling only what you can control must have felt like a lifeline. But just as the Stoics used their philosophy to tame the chaos inside, so too did the early Buddhist monks and meditators who took a completely different route to achieve inner calm. While the Stoics focused on rational thought and acceptance, Buddhism's method was based on awareness, being present in each moment and fully experiencing the ebb and flow of thoughts and emotions without judgment. These practices may seem different, but they share the same core belief that peace comes from within, and it's not about controlling the world outside, but instead mastering the mind. Historians still argue about how deeply the Indian philosophy of meditation influenced the Western world. But there's no denying the similarities between the ancient Greeks and Eastern traditions. Both philosophies put heavy emphasis on self-discipline, the power of the mind, and the importance of understanding the transient nature of life. The Stoics, for instance, believed that nothing in the world was permanent and that attachments to things beyond our control, like wealth, status, or even relationships, were a source of unnecessary anxiety. The Buddhists, similarly, taught that attachment to desires and expectations was the root cause of suffering. And here's the kicker: the ancient Greeks and the ancient Indians weren't just theorizing, they were practicing what they preached. They were creating communities of like-minded people who would come together to meditate, reflect, and engage in philosophical discussions to keep their anxiety at bay. For the Stoics, these conversations often took place in the agora, the open marketplace, where intellectuals would gather to discuss the nature of life. For Buddhists, communal meditation and teachings offered a peaceful retreat from the bustling life outside. These communities were more than just philosophical exercises. They were intentional spaces of peace and calm, built on the principles of inner control, self-reflection, and mindfulness. If you think about it, both Stoicism and meditation were, in a way, ancient forms of self-care. But this wasn't the kind of self-care where you treat yourself to a bubble bath or a shopping spree. This was the kind of self-care that required rigorous mental discipline, an ongoing practice of taming the mind and choosing peace over anxiety. It's no surprise, then, that many modern self-help and mindfulness techniques trace their roots back to these ancient practices. Today, we use terms like cognitive reframing or mindfulness meditation, but the underlying principles are remarkably similar to the wisdom shared by the Stoics and early Buddhist practitioners. So, what does this mean for us today? It means that the tools for reducing anxiety and finding peace are not new inventions. They've been around for centuries, tried, tested, and refined by civilizations long past. Whether you're drawn to the logical discipline of Stoicism or the meditative stillness of Buddhism, there are practices that have stood the test of time, offering us a way out of the cycle of anxiety and into a place of inner calm. In the next section, we'll explore the calming influence of silence, which has been used for centuries to help people find inner peace, just like the Stoics and Buddhists. We'll see how silence, not as an absence, but as a presence, can help ease the mind and reduce the noise that leads to anxiety. Let's take a moment to step away from the bustling world of ideas and dive into something simpler, yet equally powerful: silence. In the noisy, constantly connected world we live in, it might be hard to imagine that silence could be more than just the absence of sound. But silence has been an essential tool for calming the anxious mind for centuries, and some of the greatest peacekeepers of the past knew it well. From the monastic life of medieval Europe to the quietude of Buddhist meditation, silence wasn't just a void. It was a powerful presence that allowed people to connect with something deeper than themselves. Picture yourself in the peaceful quiet of a medieval monastery. You wake up at dawn, the air cool and crisp, the sun slowly rising over the horizon. You don't rush. There's no noise, no distractions. You walk quietly through the stone halls, the echo of your footsteps the only sound. Inside, monks are already gathered for morning prayers. They don't speak. Their silence is their way of communicating with the divine. This silence isn't empty, it's filled with purpose. It's a silence that isn't about avoiding the world, but rather about reconnecting with it in a deeper, more meaningful way. The medieval monks weren't alone in their use of silence as a tool for peace. Across cultures and throughout history, silence has been used as a method to reduce anxiety, not by ignoring the world around us, but by quieting the mind enough to let us see things clearly. In Christianity, the idea of solitude and silence has deep roots, with the desert fathers in Egypt retreating into the silence of the desert to find a closer connection to God. The practice of silent prayer or contemplation became central to the monastic tradition, with the belief that silence allows one to hear God's voice more clearly. And in that silence, the mind is freed from its constant chatter, allowing a peace to enter that is otherwise drowned out by the noise of daily life. Historians still argue whether these monastic practices of silence were purely religious or if they had mental health benefits as well. There are those who say the silence was a way for monks to avoid worldly distractions and focus on spiritual growth, while others suggest that it was precisely this silence that allowed monks to find peace in the face of the struggles and anxieties of life. Either way, silence played a key role in helping these early Christians manage the stress and turmoil of their time. But silence doesn't just belong to religious practices. In ancient cultures, the use of silence for peace was a universal theme. In Japan, Zen Buddhism developed a form of meditation called zazen, where practitioners sit in complete stillness, focusing on their breath and letting thoughts come and go without attachment. The goal of zazen is to achieve clarity of mind, allowing practitioners to find peace by letting go of everything, even their own anxious thoughts. This practice emphasizes the belief that peace is not found through external things, but through internal stillness, a concept that transcends both time and culture. And this ancient practice isn't just something we read about in history books. Silence still has a profound impact on us today, especially when we're looking for ways to combat anxiety and find peace in our busy, overstimulated lives. It's easy to forget that silence, true silence, not the absence of sound, but the absence of distraction can help quiet our racing thoughts and allow us to reconnect with the present moment. Just think about the last time you were in a truly quiet space, a moment when you didn't have to do anything, think anything, or worry about anything. Didn't it feel calming? That's the magic of silence. It's not just a pause from noise, it's a pause from our internal chaos. Of course, achieving that silence in today's world is no easy feat. We live in a society that's always buzzing with information, notifications, and demands. Our minds are constantly being pulled in different directions, making it harder to find true stillness. But what if the ancient wisdom of silence could offer us a way out of this cycle? Could the monks' practices of quiet contemplation help us regain our own sense of peace? The answer, I believe, is yes. In fact, modern research supports what ancient traditions have known for centuries. Silence can reduce stress, improve focus, and help us regain a sense of calm in the midst of chaos. Historians and modern-day scholars are still debating the exact effects of silence on mental health. Some suggest that it can enhance creativity and problem-solving abilities, while others argue that it helps us process emotions and experiences we might otherwise overlook. But regardless of the specifics, the therapeutic benefits of silence are undeniable. So, let's think about this for a moment. How often do you carve out moments of true silence in your own life? I'm not talking about just turning off the TV or scrolling through your phone in a quiet room, but rather taking the time to intentionally create space for stillness in your mind. What would happen if we began to embrace this ancient method of reducing anxiety, just sitting in silence, letting go of the mental clutter, and allowing our minds to settle? Maybe it's something we could all benefit from, especially when faced with the pressures and uncertainties of modern life. Now, let's go even deeper. Silence, when combined with mindfulness, can be a powerful tool for self-regulation. Many of the practices we've discussed, Stoic philosophy, meditation, and silence, are all based on the same principle, that peace is not something external, but something within. It's about understanding that we are in control of our minds, and that through silence, we can find the clarity to see that control more clearly. The Stoics taught that we have control over our reactions to the world, and the Buddhist monks taught that we have control over our thoughts. By embracing silence, we can train ourselves to let go of the noise in our minds and the distractions around us, and instead focus on what truly matters, our inner peace. It's interesting to think about how these ancient methods of silence and self-discipline could fit into our modern world. With the constant barrage of information, the rapid pace of life, and the never-ending to-do lists, it's easy to forget the importance of simply being still. Yet, the more we learn from these ancient traditions, the more we realize that silence is not just a passive act. It's an active practice that requires discipline, intention, and a willingness to step away from the chaos of everyday life. In the next section, we'll explore another ancient method for reducing anxiety, breathwork. Just as silence helps us connect with stillness, controlled breathing can connect us with the present moment, grounding us in a way that is both calming and revitalizing. But before we dive into that, take a moment to reflect on the power of silence, how it has been used for thousands of years to calm the anxious mind, and how it can be a simple yet transformative practice in your own life. As we continue our journey through the ancient methods of reducing anxiety and finding peace, let's move from silence to something equally powerful, the breath. In a world where we're constantly rushing from one thing to the next, it's easy to forget that one of the simplest tools for calming the mind and relieving stress is already within us, our breath. From ancient Egypt to India, people have recognized the profound impact that controlled breathing can have on the mind and body. In fact, some of the oldest wisdom on managing anxiety comes not from philosophical teachings or silent retreats, but from the very air we breathe. Let's start by imagining an ancient Egyptian temple once again, but this time, the focus is not on the grandeur of the space or the beauty of the surroundings, but on the practitioners within it. Picture priests and healers guiding people through rituals that involve deep, slow breathing, an ancient form of breathwork designed to calm the mind and bring peace to the spirit. These practices were often tied to spiritual rituals, but the idea was simple. By controlling the breath, they could control the mind. Deep, measured breaths helped calm the body, lower stress levels, and clear the mind of the constant chatter that caused anxiety. This idea wasn't just confined to Egypt either. Across cultures, the act of controlling the breath was seen as a direct way to regulate the mind and emotions. Now let's fast forward a bit and look at the ancient practice of pranayama, which originated in India and has been a cornerstone of yoga for thousands of years. In pranayama, the word itself means life force control, prana being the Sanskrit word for breath or life force, and ayama meaning control or extension. This practice involves a series of breathing exercises aimed at controlling the prana in the body, which in turn helps regulate the mind. For the yogis of ancient India, the breath wasn't just a physical process. It was a bridge between the mind, body, and spirit. Imagine yourself sitting cross-legged in a serene garden, the morning sun filtering through the leaves as you take a deep breath, filling your lungs with air. Then, slowly, you exhale, releasing not just the air, but the tension in your body, the stress in your mind, and the anxiety you've been holding on to. This simple act of breathing is designed to ground you, to bring you back to the present moment, and to calm the restless thoughts that often cloud our minds. Historians still argue whether the benefits of pranayama were purely spiritual or whether they also had physical health benefits. But modern science has proven what these ancient practices knew intuitively. Slow, controlled breathing can lower blood pressure, reduce stress hormones, and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, essentially putting the body into a state of rest and relaxation. You might be wondering, how exactly does this work? It's all about the mind-body connection. When we breathe deeply, we're signaling to our body that it's time to relax. Our heart rate slows, our muscles release tension, and our minds begin to quiet. This is the opposite of the fight or flight response that often triggers anxiety. Think about the times you found yourself breathing quickly and shallowly during stressful moments. It's a natural response to anxiety. But by consciously slowing your breath, you can trigger the body's relaxation response, putting a halt to that cycle of anxiety. In ancient India, pranayama wasn't just about relaxation. It was about awakening the life force within. The yogis believed that by mastering the breath, they could master the mind. This idea was so powerful that it formed the basis for much of what we now recognize as modern meditation. And just like the Stoics or the Buddhist monks. These ancient practitioners were teaching us that the mind, like any other part of the body, can be trained. The breath was their tool, and they used it to stay present, calm, and focused in a world that often felt chaotic. But it wasn't only in India or Egypt where breathwork played an important role. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato also recognized the importance of breath in achieving peace. Pythagoras, in particular, is said to have taught that the breath was the key to inner harmony. He believed that by breathing consciously, one could attune themselves to the rhythms of the universe, finding balance and peace. In fact, ancient Greek athletes used breath control techniques to enhance their physical performance and calm their minds before competitions, echoing the practices of modern athletes today who use controlled breathing to manage stress and improve focus. Historians still debate whether breathwork in these ancient cultures was primarily used for spiritual enlightenment or whether it had physical health benefits as well. Some argue that these practices were more about cultivating a sense of calm in the face of life's uncertainties. Others believe that these ancient cultures recognized the therapeutic benefits of deep breathing long before modern science caught up with them. Regardless of their motivations, one thing is clear. These ancient traditions understood that the breath was a direct line to the body's state of being, and, just like the Stoics' mental discipline and the Buddhists' mindfulness, breathwork was an integral part of reducing anxiety and finding peace. In our fast-paced, high-stress world, it's easy to forget that one of the most effective tools for reducing anxiety is already at our fingertips, literally. Our breath is always with us, and yet we often forget how powerful it can be. We're constantly bombarded with distractions. Our phones, our work, our relationships. And in the process, we neglect the very thing that can help us stay grounded. But as the ancients knew well, taking a moment to pause and focus on the breath can bring us back to the present moment and provide a sense of peace amidst the chaos. So, let's take a moment right now. Inhale deeply, hold for a few seconds, and then exhale slowly. Let the breath fill your lungs, calm your nerves, and clear your mind. This is what the ancient cultures understood, that in the simplicity of the breath, we can find the peace we're all searching for. In the next section, we'll take a look at another powerful method that the ancients used to calm their minds, the use of nature as a healing force. From the Greeks to the Native Americans, nature has always been seen as a source of comfort and tranquility. But how did these cultures use nature to reduce anxiety? That's what we'll explore next as we continue our journey through ancient practices for finding peace. As we've seen so far, the ancients had a deep understanding of the power of the mind and body to overcome anxiety. But there's another powerful tool they used to calm their troubled souls: nature. Think back to the civilizations we've explored, whether it was the Greek philosophers who sought peace in quiet gardens, or the Buddhists who meditated under the shade of towering trees. The natural world has always been a place of refuge for those seeking relief from the stresses of life. Nature wasn't just a backdrop for their existence, it was a living, breathing partner in their quest for tranquility. And the more we learn from these ancient practices, the more we realize that nature can still serve as a powerful balm for the modern mind. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a peaceful forest, the leaves rustling gently in the breeze, the air fresh with the scent of pine and earth. You hear nothing but the sounds of nature, birds singing, a distant stream babbling, and the occasional crackling of twigs underfoot. This is a far cry from the noise and busyness of modern life, where we're constantly surrounded by technology, traffic, and the ceaseless hum of human activity. In the ancient world, however, nature was not only a retreat from this noise, it was a direct path to peace. The Greeks, for instance, had a deep reverence for nature. The famous philosopher Aristotle believed that spending time in nature could help soothe the soul and clear the mind. He wrote about how gardens and parks were places where one could reflect, meditate, and find peace, places where the natural world could help nurture a sense of calm. These spaces weren't just for beauty or leisure, they were integral to the mental well-being of the people. Aristotle's own school, the Lyceum, was surrounded by gardens where students would often engage in philosophical discussions and reflections while walking through the natural landscape. It was believed that the peace and stillness of nature helped foster clearer thinking and a calmer, more centered mind. Fast forward to ancient Chinese philosophy, and we find a similar belief in the calming power of nature. Taoism, with its emphasis on living in harmony with the natural world, saw nature as not just something to admire, but as something to learn from. Taoist practitioners sought to embody the principles of the Tao, the natural flow of the universe, and believed that by attuning oneself to nature's rhythms, they could achieve inner peace. The Tao Te Ching, a central text in Taoism, speaks of simplicity, stillness, and the power of natural processes. Be like water, the text advises, meaning that we should flow with the natural world, not fight against it. In this philosophy, nature wasn't just a way to find calm, it was the path itself. And it wasn't just the philosophers who turned to nature for peace. Ancient peoples all around the world understood the healing potential of the natural world. Native American cultures, for instance, often sought solitude in nature to heal from emotional or physical trauma. The belief was that the land itself possessed spiritual power and that spending time in nature could bring balance and peace to an unsettled soul. The practice of going on vision quests, where individuals would spend time alone in nature to seek spiritual guidance, was a powerful method of reconnecting with the earth and finding clarity in the midst of confusion. Historians still debate the exact spiritual and psychological benefits of these ancient practices in nature. Some argue that the peace found in these natural spaces was a form of spiritual cleansing, aligning the mind with the natural world to restore harmony. Others suggest that the act of simply being surrounded by nature, away from the distractions of modern life, helped the ancients achieve a clearer state of mind, free from the constant noise of human existence. But regardless of the perspective, one thing is clear: nature was an essential part of their practices for reducing anxiety and finding peace. In fact, modern science has begun to catch up with what ancient cultures understood intuitively. Studies have shown that spending time in nature, whether it's a walk through the park, a hike in the mountains, or even sitting by a body of water, can have profound benefits for our mental health. Nature has been found to reduce stress, lower blood pressure, and improve mood. The simple act of being outside and immersing ourselves in natural surroundings helps lower the levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and relaxation. This isn't just some philosophical idea, it's backed by scientific research. One fascinating study showed that people who spent time in natural environments reported feeling more relaxed, less anxious, and more focused. In fact, even viewing images of nature has been shown to have a calming effect on the mind. The act of connecting with nature, even in small ways, can reduce feelings of anxiety and help us find a sense of peace. And it's not just the beauty of nature that has this effect, it's the stillness, the slow rhythms, the simplicity of being in a space where the world operates on its own terms. It's no wonder that many modern therapeutic practices now incorporate nature as part of their treatment for anxiety and stress. Ecotherapy, for example, is a growing field that uses nature-based activities such as gardening, hiking, and wilderness therapy to help people manage their mental health. These practices are rooted in the belief that humans are inherently connected to the natural world and that reconnecting with it can help restore balance to our minds and bodies. And yet, despite the overwhelming evidence that nature can be a powerful tool for reducing anxiety, most of us spend very little time in natural spaces. Our lives are increasingly urbanized, with concrete buildings, bright lights, and constant noise. It's easy to forget that we're part of a larger ecosystem, a world full of trees, rivers, and animals that can offer us the peace we so desperately need. But perhaps it's time to take a lesson from the ancients. Maybe it's time to return to nature, to rediscover the healing power it holds, and to make space for it in our lives once again. Next, we'll turn our attention to another practice that the ancients used to find peace and reduce anxiety: music. From the haunting melodies of ancient Greece to the soothing sounds of Eastern traditions, music has been a companion in the quest for tranquility. In our next section, we'll explore how music has played a role in calming the mind and soothing the soul across cultures and throughout history. As we continue on our journey through ancient methods for reducing anxiety, let's explore the power of music, one of the most ancient and universal tools humans have used to calm the mind and soothe the soul. From the earliest civilizations to the present day, music has played a crucial role in the rituals, ceremonies, and daily lives of people seeking peace. Whether it was the gentle plucking of strings in ancient Greece or the hauntingly beautiful sounds of Chinese zithers, music has had a profound impact on reducing anxiety and fostering a sense of calm. Let's begin with the ancient Greeks, who believed music was more than just entertainment. It was a powerful tool for influencing the emotions and the soul. The philosopher Plato wrote extensively about the role of music in shaping the character of individuals and society. He argued that music had the ability to affect both the body and the mind, with the power to heal or harm depending on the type of music played. For the Greeks, certain melodies and rhythms were considered calming, while others could stir up aggression or restlessness. This understanding of music's impact on the mind and emotions was foundational to their therapeutic use of music. In fact, music was an essential part of Greek therapeutic practices. Musicians and healers often worked together to create specific compositions designed to soothe patients' nerves, calm their anxieties, and even treat illnesses. The Greeks also used music in their temples, where it was believed to be a form of divine communication. In these sacred spaces, music played a vital role in rituals and offerings to the gods, and it was thought to bring the worshippers closer to the divine. The healing power of music wasn't just a myth or a belief, it was a deeply ingrained part of Greek life, with music being used in schools, hospitals, and religious ceremonies. Historians still debate how music affected the Greeks on a psychological level. Some argue that the Greeks were simply trying to create a harmonious environment in their temples and healing spaces, while others suggest that the music itself was believed to directly influence the soul and the spirit. Whatever the reason, it's clear that music was seen as a vital component in the pursuit of mental and emotional balance. And even today, we continue to use music in similar ways. Whether it's through meditation playlists, calming soundtracks, or even the music therapists who work to ease patients suffering in hospitals. Beyond the Greeks, ancient cultures around the world recognized the power of music to reduce anxiety and promote peace. In ancient China, music was considered one of the five arts of the scholars and was integral to both spiritual and physical well-being. Confucius, one of the most influential philosophers in Chinese history, believed that music had the ability to nurture moral character and bring harmony to the individual and society. In Confucian philosophy, music was not just an aesthetic pursuit, but a moral one, shaping a person's emotional and spiritual development. Music was used in meditation, rituals, and even in daily life as a way to bring balance to the individual. One of the most famous forms of music in ancient China was the guqin, a traditional seven-stringed instrument often associated with scholars and intellectuals. The sound of the guqin was considered to have a calming and purifying effect on the mind, and playing the instrument was thought to foster concentration, inner peace, and spiritual insight. It wasn't just the sound of the music that was important, it was the way it was played and the mindful intention behind it. The act of playing the guqin was a form of meditation, a way to connect with the inner self and the natural world. In addition to its spiritual and moral benefits, music in ancient China was also used to regulate emotions. It was believed that different musical scales and rhythms could be used to balance the body's internal energies, known as kwai. Just as the ancient Greeks used music for therapeutic purposes, the Chinese used it as a form of self-regulation, a way to achieve emotional and mental balance. This connection between music and the body is something that resonates with us today, as modern research shows that listening to music can reduce stress, improve mood, and even regulate our heart rate and blood pressure. But music wasn't just reserved for the elite philosophers and scholars. In cultures around the world, music was woven into the fabric of daily life, used to calm children, ease the elderly, and soothe the anxious. In African traditions, for example, rhythmic drumming was not only used in ceremonies, but also as a way to release pent-up emotions and communicate with the spiritual world. The repetitive, steady rhythm of the drums was believed to help clear the mind and align the body with the earth's natural rhythms. In Native American cultures, songs and chants were often used to bring peace to the mind and restore balance to the body, especially during times of stress or turmoil. What's fascinating about these ancient uses of music is how they align with modern understandings of music therapy. Music has been shown to activate the brain's reward centers, releasing dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter. Listening to calming music can lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol, improve sleep, and even enhance cognitive function. Modern music therapists use these principles to help patients manage anxiety, depression, and trauma. Whether through soothing melodies, rhythmic drumming, or harmonic chanting, music continues to be an effective tool for emotional healing. But there's something even deeper at play here. The ancient belief in music's ability to soothe the soul was not just about the notes or the rhythms. It was about the intentional connection that the music facilitated. Music allowed people to connect with themselves, with others, and with the divine. It was a way to bring order to the chaos of the world and find a sense of harmony in a time of uncertainty. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to forget how deeply music can affect our emotions. We're often surrounded by noise and distractions, and we forget that music is not just something to listen to, it's something to experience, something that can move us on a deep, emotional level. So, the next time you feel anxious or overwhelmed, take a moment to reconnect with the power of music, whether it's through your favorite calming playlist, a soothing piece of classical music, or even just the sound of birds singing outside. Let the music wash over you and guide you back to a place of peace. It's a practice that has been used for thousands of years, and it's still just as effective today. In the next section, we'll explore another ancient practice that has stood the test of time: the power of storytelling. Storytelling has been used for centuries as a way to convey wisdom, alleviate fear, and find peace in the midst of life's uncertainties. We'll dive into how ancient cultures used storytelling not just for entertainment, but as a way to find comfort and peace in times of stress. So, stay with me as we continue to explore these timeless practices for calming the mind. As we move through the labyrinth of ancient practices designed to reduce anxiety and find peace, we arrive at one of humanity's most profound tools for soothing the soul: storytelling. From the earliest cave paintings to the epic sagas passed down through generations, stories have been at the heart of human civilization. But storytelling wasn't just a way to pass time or entertain. It was a method for understanding the world, making sense of the unknown, and finding comfort in the midst of chaos. In fact, some of the most powerful and enduring practices for calming anxiety are rooted in the art of telling and listening to stories. Imagine sitting around a fire in the heart of ancient Greece, the crackling of the flames punctuating the voice of a storyteller. The audience listens intently, drawn into a tale of gods and mortals, triumphs and tragedies. These stories didn't just entertain, they were moral lessons, reflections on the human experience, and, importantly, ways to soothe anxiety. For the Greeks, storytelling was deeply intertwined with philosophy and psychology. In their stories of gods, heroes, and mythical creatures, they explored the very nature of fear, fate, and peace. The stories helped the listeners understand that they were not alone in their struggles, that even the greatest of heroes faced obstacles, suffered losses, and overcame fears. These stories gave the people of ancient Greece a sense of perspective, a reminder that suffering and fear were part of the human experience. but that peace could always be found on the other side. The Greeks also used stories as a way of building resilience. The tragic plays of playwrights like Sophocles and Euripides were designed to help the audience confront the harsh realities of life, including death, betrayal, and loss. By witnessing the struggles of tragic heroes, the audience was able to process their own fears in a safe and controlled environment. It was a cathartic experience where emotions could be purged through empathy and understanding. This ancient concept of catharsis, or the emotional release that comes from experiencing a story, is still a cornerstone of modern therapeutic practices, including narrative therapy. The idea is that by telling and listening to stories, we can process our emotions, gain perspective, and ultimately achieve a sense of peace. But the power of storytelling wasn't confined to the Greeks. Throughout history, other cultures have used stories to help calm anxiety and guide people toward peace. In ancient India, for example, the epic tales of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana served as both moral guides and spiritual teachings. These stories were not just religious texts, they were tools for understanding the complexities of life. The Ramayana, with its story of the hero Rama's journey to rescue his wife, Sita, from the demon king Ravana, is filled with themes of duty, honor, and the battle between good and evil. It's a story that resonates deeply with the human experience, offering both comfort and lessons in overcoming fear and adversity. Through these tales, people found a framework for understanding their own challenges and anxieties, knowing that they too could find peace by following the path of righteousness and self-discipline. In Native American cultures, storytelling was also an essential part of spiritual and mental well-being. The indigenous peoples of North America passed down their history, wisdom, and teachings through stories, often shared around the campfire. These stories were used to teach values such as bravery, generosity, and respect for nature, but they also offered comfort during times of hardship. Whether it was the story of the trickster or the myths about the creation of the world, these tales provided a sense of continuity and connection to the past. They reminded people that the challenges they faced in the present were part of a much larger, timeless narrative. By sharing these stories, they found peace in the knowledge that their struggles were not unique. They were part of the grand cycle of life. Historians still debate whether the use of storytelling in these ancient cultures was solely for entertainment or whether it had a deeper psychological purpose. Some scholars believe that storytelling was a form of group therapy, helping people process their emotions and fears by hearing their own struggles reflected in the lives of characters. Others argue that these stories were a way of transmitting cultural values and wisdom from one generation to the next, creating a sense of unity and belonging. Either way, the therapeutic effects of storytelling are undeniable. Even today, storytelling remains a powerful tool for reducing anxiety and promoting peace. Whether it's through books, movies, or personal anecdotes, stories help us understand our own lives by connecting us to the experiences of others. When we hear stories of overcoming adversity, we realize that we are not alone in our struggles. Stories provide context, meaning, and comfort. They allow us to view our anxieties through a different lens, often helping us find peace in the process. In fact, one of the most effective ways to combat anxiety is to engage in storytelling ourselves. Whether we write our own stories, share experiences with others, or simply listen to a comforting narrative, the act of storytelling helps us make sense of our emotions. This is especially true when it comes to narratives that focus on resilience, hope, and overcoming obstacles. By hearing or telling stories of survival and triumph, we remind ourselves that we too have the strength to navigate our fears and anxieties. This concept isn't just rooted in ancient history. Modern therapy techniques, like narrative therapy, rely on the idea that our personal stories shape our perceptions of the world. In this form of therapy, patients are encouraged to rewrite their own stories, reframing negative experiences as opportunities for growth. By changing the narrative, we tell ourselves about our struggles. We can change the way we experience those struggles. But storytelling isn't limited to therapy. It's something we can all use in our everyday lives to promote peace. The next time you're feeling overwhelmed, try telling a story, either to yourself or someone else. Reframe your situation as part of a larger, more meaningful narrative. Maybe you're the hero overcoming a great challenge, or perhaps you're learning an important lesson through adversity. By framing your anxiety as part of your personal story, you can find a sense of perspective and peace. In the next section, we'll explore how philosophy and spirituality come together to offer yet another path to reducing anxiety. The ancient teachings that blend both of these aspects will help us understand how to navigate the complexities of the modern world with peace and clarity. So, stay with me as we continue to explore the timeless practices that have guided humanity toward tranquility for centuries. As we continue our exploration of ancient practices for reducing anxiety and finding peace, we come to a crossroads where philosophy and spirituality meet. These two realms were not separate in the ancient world. Rather, they were intricately intertwined, often working together to help individuals achieve inner tranquility and clarity. Think about the ancient Greeks, the Romans, and the Buddhists. They didn't view philosophy and spirituality as distinct entities. Instead, they believed that the two worked hand in hand to create a balanced life, one where the mind, body, and spirit were aligned. Let's begin with the ancient Greek philosophers, whose teachings still echo in modern discussions on mental health. The Stoics, in particular, believed that the key to peace was found not in external circumstances, but in our ability to control our thoughts, reactions, and emotions. For them, the only true thing we could control in life was our own mind. They argued that external events, whether it was a financial crisis, personal loss, or even a natural disaster, were beyond our control. What mattered, they said, was how we responded to these events. Imagine yourself in the sandals of a Stoic philosopher like Marcus Aurelius, sitting by the hearth on a quiet evening. You reflect on the day's events, acknowledging that things didn't go as planned. But instead of feeling anxious or upset, you embrace the wisdom that these setbacks are simply part of life. You remind yourself that your true happiness doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on your own inner peace. This ability to detach from the stressors of life and reframe your experiences through the lens of acceptance and reason is what the Stoics taught as the path to tranquility. The Stoics believed that by cultivating inner virtues such as wisdom, courage, and self-control, one could achieve peace, regardless of the turmoil surrounding them. However, this didn't mean that Stoic philosophy advocated for an emotionless life. Far from it. The Stoics believed that emotions, when understood and managed, could become powerful tools for personal growth. Anxiety, for example, was seen as a natural response to the unknown. But instead of allowing anxiety to control them, the Stoics taught that one should confront it, understand its roots, and choose how to respond. This idea of embracing emotions without letting them take over aligns with modern psychological practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which helps people reframe negative thought patterns and develop healthier responses to stress. Now, if we look eastward, we find a philosophy that integrates spirituality and mindfulness in a way that's deeply connected to our search for peace. Buddhism. Buddhist teachings emphasize the impermanence of life, the interconnectedness of all beings, and the importance of mindfulness in reducing suffering. At the core of Buddhist philosophy is the idea that suffering, whether in the form of anxiety, fear, or pain, is an inherent part of life, but it can be alleviated through awareness and understanding. Imagine you're sitting in the tranquil gardens of a Buddhist monastery, surrounded by the scent of incense and the gentle rustling of leaves in the wind. Your mind is racing with thoughts of the day's stresses, but you pause to focus on your breath. You're taught to observe these thoughts without judgment, to see them as fleeting clouds in the sky of your consciousness. By practicing mindfulness, you begin to realize that these thoughts and anxieties are not who you are. They are simply passing phenomena. The Buddha taught that by becoming aware of the present moment, we can free ourselves from the grip of anxiety and fear, which are often rooted in our attachments to the past or future. What's particularly striking about Buddhism is its focus on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the framework through which individuals can reduce suffering and find peace. The first truth acknowledges that suffering is a universal experience, and the second identifies attachment and desire as the root causes of suffering. In the face of anxiety, this teaching encourages individuals to examine their attachments, whether to people, possessions, or outcomes, and let go of these desires. The third truth offers hope, suggesting that there is a way to end suffering, and the fourth provides the path to that liberation: right understanding, right intention, right speech, and so on. The Eightfold Path is a guide for living a balanced and mindful life, where peace comes not from external circumstances, but from cultivating a wise, compassionate, and mindful heart. As we move further into the modern age, the integration of philosophy and spirituality becomes even more relevant. We live in a time where mental health is a prominent concern, and people are increasingly seeking ways to reduce anxiety and find peace in their hectic lives. While Stoic philosophy and Buddhist mindfulness may seem ancient, their teachings have stood the test of time because they address universal truths about the human condition: our tendency to cling to control, our fear of the unknown, and our desire for lasting happiness. Today, many people turn to spiritual practices like meditation, prayer, or yoga to cultivate the same sense of inner peace that the ancients sought. Philosophical principles, such as those taught by the Stoics, are now applied in modern therapeutic practices, helping people deal with anxiety, depression, and stress. In fact, many therapeutic techniques today, like mindfulness-based stress reduction MBSR, and acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, are rooted in ancient Buddhist teachings and Stoic ideas. These therapies emphasize the importance of accepting what we cannot change, being present in the moment, and aligning our values with our actions. Historians and modern scholars still debate whether philosophy and spirituality should be viewed as separate practices or whether they are part of a larger, interconnected path toward peace. Some argue that philosophy is a rational pursuit, while spirituality is a more emotional and mystical one. But what's clear is that the integration of both leads to a more balanced, harmonious life. Just as the ancient Greeks and Buddhists intertwined philosophy with spiritual practice, so too can we find peace by blending reason with mindfulness, discipline with compassion. As we look toward the future, it's crucial to recognize that the pursuit of peace is not just about external circumstances or accomplishments. It's about the way we approach life, the way we train our minds, and the way we connect with the world around us. Philosophy and spirituality offer us timeless wisdom that, if embraced, can help us navigate the complexities of modern life with calm and clarity. In the next section, we'll explore how these ancient practices, combined with modern techniques, can help us deal with the anxieties of our fast-paced world. We'll look at how integrating mindfulness, philosophy, and spirituality into our daily routines can transform our lives, reduce stress, and bring us the peace we seek. As we continue our exploration into the practices that have helped humans find peace through the ages, we now arrive at the intersection of the ancient and the modern. We've seen how the Greeks, Romans, Buddhists, and other cultures used philosophy and spirituality to calm the mind and reduce anxiety. But the real question is, how can we apply these ancient practices in our fast-paced, often overwhelming modern lives? How can we blend the wisdom of the past with the demands of the present to achieve the peace we desperately seek? The good news is, these ancient methods are more relevant today than ever before. In fact, modern research has shown that many of the techniques these cultures used to find peace, like mindfulness, meditation, and philosophical reflection, are incredibly effective at reducing anxiety and improving mental well-being. The science of mindfulness-based practices, for example, has grown exponentially in the last few decades. What was once an ancient spiritual practice is now an evidence-based method used in therapy, schools, workplaces, and even hospitals to help people manage stress, anxiety, and depression. Let's take mindfulness, a practice with deep roots in Buddhist tradition, as an example. In ancient times, mindfulness was taught as a way to cultivate awareness of the present moment, to reduce the constant noise in the mind, and to detach from anxious thoughts that come from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. The act of simply being aware of your breath, your body, and your surroundings in the present moment was seen as a way to reconnect with the self and with the world around you. Fast forward to today, and mindfulness has been proven to have a profound impact on mental health. Studies show that practicing mindfulness can significantly reduce anxiety, improve emotional regulation, and even change the way the brain responds to stress. In fact, mindfulness is now a cornerstone of many modern therapeutic practices, such as mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT. These practices have helped countless individuals find peace by teaching them to live more fully in the moment, rather than being consumed by anxiety about what might happen next or what has already happened. But mindfulness isn't the only ancient practice that's found new life in the modern world. Stoic philosophy, once reserved for ancient thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, has seen a resurgence in recent years. The Stoics taught that peace comes from accepting what we cannot control and focusing on what we can, primarily our own thoughts, attitudes, and actions. They believed that external events, whether good or bad, don't determine our happiness. Our reactions to those events do. This philosophy of emotional resilience is something that resonates deeply today as we face an ever changing world filled with uncertainty and stress. In fact, Stoic practices are now being incorporated into modern cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most effective treatments for anxiety and depression. One of the central tenets of CBT is identifying and changing negative thought patterns, much like what the Stoics practiced in their day. By recognizing and reframing irrational thoughts, individuals can change the way they perceive stressors and, as a result, reduce anxiety. The Stoic practice of journaling, for example, where one reflects on their day, their thoughts, and their responses to challenges, is now used as a therapeutic tool to increase self-awareness and improve mental well-being. In addition to mindfulness and Stoicism, other ancient practices like meditation, breathwork, and even the use of music and nature for healing are being re-explored today. Yoga, which has its origins in ancient India, is now practiced worldwide, not just for its physical benefits, but for its ability to calm the mind and reduce anxiety. The ancient practice of pranayama, or breath control, has been revived as a powerful tool for reducing stress and enhancing emotional resilience. Whether it's through deep breathing techniques, chanting, or simply sitting in silence, modern wellness practices have rediscovered the profound benefits of these ancient methods. Perhaps one of the most powerful ways we can integrate these ancient practices into our modern lives is by creating intentional spaces of peace. Just as the Greeks created gardens for reflection and the Buddhists meditated in serene surroundings, we too can cultivate environments that support our mental and emotional well-being. This doesn't necessarily mean creating a private retreat in the mountains, but rather designing small moments of peace throughout our day. It might be a quiet space at home where we can practice mindfulness or breathwork, or a walk in nature to reconnect with the world around us. It could even be a few minutes of journaling each day, reflecting on our thoughts and experiences, just as the Stoics did. In a world where stress and anxiety are constant companions, creating these moments of peace is essential for our mental health. But we must also recognize that achieving peace is not a one-time effort. It's a continuous practice. The ancients didn't expect peace to come overnight, and neither should we. Whether it's through Stoic reflection, Buddhist mindfulness, or simply taking a moment to breathe and connect with nature, the key is consistency. Over time, these small practices can add up, creating a foundation of inner peace that helps us navigate life's challenges with calm and clarity. So, how can you start integrating these ancient practices into your own life? It begins with small, intentional steps. Set aside time each day to practice mindfulness, whether it's through breathing exercises, meditation, or simply being present in the moment. Reframe negative thoughts using Stoic principles, focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't. Spend time in nature, allowing its tranquility to calm your mind. Listen to calming music or engage in a creative practice like art or journaling to soothe your emotions. And remember, peace isn't about achieving a perfect, stress-free life. It's about learning to live with the challenges and finding stillness in the chaos. As we move into the next section, we'll explore how the integration of modern wellness techniques with ancient practices is becoming more accessible than ever. We'll look at how these practices are being embraced in everyday life and how they can help us all find the peace we seek, no matter where we are on our journey. Now that we've explored how ancient practices like mindfulness, Stoic reflection, and the power of nature can guide us toward inner peace, we need to look at how these methods are being integrated into modern wellness techniques. In today's world, where stress, anxiety, and mental exhaustion are pervasive, people are increasingly turning to the wisdom of the ancients to find balance and tranquility in their busy lives. The beauty of this integration is that these practices are more accessible than ever thanks to the development of new technologies, modern therapeutic approaches, and a growing awareness of the importance of mental health. Let's begin with one of the most profound modern adaptations of ancient practices, mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. This therapeutic approach, developed by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn in the late 20th century, is rooted in ancient Buddhist meditation techniques, but has been refined and structured to fit into the context of modern therapeutic practices. MBSR focuses on bringing individuals' attention to the present moment, teaching them to observe their thoughts and feelings without judgment. It encourages a deeper awareness of the body, the breath, and the mind, exactly the principles that have been central to ancient mindfulness practices. The results of MBSR are astounding. Research has shown that regular practice of mindfulness can reduce anxiety, improve emotional regulation, and enhance overall well-being. By training the mind to stay present, individuals are better able to manage stress and prevent the spiral of negative thoughts that often accompany anxiety. This practice, though rooted in ancient Buddhism, is now widely used in hospitals, schools, workplaces, and therapy centers around the world, helping people from all walks of life find peace in the midst of their daily struggles. In a similar vein, the resurgence of Stoic philosophy in the modern era has been remarkable. Stoicism, which was once a niche subject studied by academics and philosophers, has gained widespread popularity in recent years, particularly in the realm of self-help and personal development. Books like The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci have brought Stoic wisdom into the mainstream, offering practical advice on how to apply Stoicism in modern life. The core Stoic principles, such as focusing on what we can control, accepting what we cannot, and cultivating virtues like courage and wisdom, have proven to be incredibly effective tools for managing anxiety and improving resilience. By embracing these timeless ideas, people are learning to approach life's challenges with a calm, reasoned mindset, rather than reacting with fear or panic. Modern Stoicism often incorporates journaling, reflection, and mindfulness, practices that were central to the Stoic philosophers themselves. as a way to process thoughts and emotions, enabling individuals to maintain peace in a chaotic world. Alongside these ancient philosophies, the practice of yoga has also seen a modern renaissance, with millions of people worldwide turning to it not just for physical health, but for mental peace as well. Yoga, which originated in ancient India, integrates breathwork, movement, and meditation to create a balanced practice for the body and mind. The ancient practice of pranayama, breath control, has been particularly embraced in modern yoga studios as a way to reduce anxiety, calm the nervous system, and promote emotional well-being. In today's fast-paced world, where many of us feel disconnected from our bodies and overwhelmed by stress, yoga provides a way to reconnect with ourselves and find peace in the present moment. Modern-day yoga teachers often combine ancient teachings with contemporary wellness practices to create a holistic approach to mental health, whether through gentle hatha yoga, the more intense ashtanga yoga, or restorative practices that focus on relaxation and deep breathing. Yoga provides an accessible path for individuals seeking relief from stress and anxiety. It's a practice that has crossed cultural boundaries, offering a universal method for creating balance in both the body and the mind. Additionally, the increasing popularity of nature-based therapies, such as ecotherapy and forest bathing, demonstrates how ancient wisdom about the healing power of nature is being adapted for modern use. Ecotherapy, which involves spending time in nature to promote mental well-being, is grounded in the belief that humans have a deep, intrinsic connection to the natural world. Modern ecotherapy programs encourage people to engage with nature, whether through hiking, gardening, or simply spending time in green spaces, as a way to reduce anxiety, improve mood, and foster a sense of calm. In Japan, the practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, has been scientifically proven to lower stress levels, reduce blood pressure, and improve mental clarity. This ancient practice, which involves immersing oneself in the sights, sounds, and smells of the forest, helps individuals reconnect with the natural world and find peace in the midst of the chaos of modern life. The power of nature, once so central to the ancients, is now being rediscovered as a critical tool for managing modern-day anxiety. But it's not just the practice of these ancient techniques that's growing in popularity. It's the philosophy behind them. Modern wellness trends are increasingly focused on holistic well-being, recognizing that mental, physical, and emotional health are interconnected. Ancient practices such as meditation, breathwork, and mindfulness align perfectly with this holistic approach, offering simple yet powerful tools for cultivating peace and balance in all areas of life. One key aspect of modern wellness that mirrors ancient teachings is the importance of self-compassion and self-care. The Stoics, for example, taught that the path to peace comes not from external validation, but from cultivating inner strength and self-acceptance. This idea is echoed in modern psychological practices, such as self-compassion training, which encourages individuals to treat themselves with the same kindness and understanding they would offer a close friend. By embracing self-compassion, individuals are better able to manage anxiety, reduce self-criticism, and foster a more peaceful relationship with themselves. Incorporating these ancient practices into our modern lives doesn't mean rejecting modern solutions. It means blending the wisdom of the past with the tools of the present to create a more balanced, peaceful existence. Whether it's through mindfulness, Stoic philosophy, yoga, nature therapy, or self compassion, these ancient methods offer timeless guidance for managing anxiety and finding peace in a chaotic world. As we move into the final section, we'll explore how these ancient practices can be integrated into daily routines to create lasting habits of peace and tranquility. By making these practices a regular part of our lives, we can build resilience, reduce stress, and live more fully in the present moment. As we come to the final stretch of our journey through ancient methods for reducing anxiety and finding peace, we now turn our focus to integrating these ancient practices into our everyday lives. The key to maintaining lasting peace and tranquility isn't simply about adopting a single practice. It's about creating a lifestyle that honors the wisdom of the past while accommodating the demands of the present. By weaving these practices into our daily routines, we can cultivate a sense of calm that persists even in the most chaotic moments. The first step in integrating ancient wisdom into daily life is making time for mindfulness. As we've seen, mindfulness isn't just an abstract idea, it's a practical tool that helps us stay grounded in the present moment, reducing anxiety and fostering peace. But in the hustle and bustle of modern life, it's easy to forget to take a moment to simply be present. That's why it's important to set aside intentional time each day for mindfulness practices, whether it's through a short meditation session, mindful breathing, or simply taking a walk without distractions. One of the easiest ways to incorporate mindfulness into your day is to start small. You don't need to carve out an hour for meditation. Even a few minutes of focused attention on your breath can make a significant difference in reducing stress. Try taking a few mindful breaths in the morning before you get out of bed, or pause for a moment during your lunch break to pay attention to the sensations of eating. These small, intentional moments of mindfulness can help you stay centered throughout the day, reducing anxiety and bringing a sense of calm to your daily routine. Another essential practice for cultivating peace is Stoic reflection. The Stoics believed that one of the most powerful ways to manage anxiety was by focusing on what is within our control and letting go of what is not. In today's world, we're often bombarded with information, pressures, and demands that can make us feel overwhelmed and powerless. By practicing Stoic reflection each day, we can remind ourselves that many of these external stressors are beyond our control. What we can control, however, is our response to them. You can integrate Stoic reflection into your routine through journaling. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on your thoughts and actions. Write down any anxieties you experienced and challenge yourself to reframe them in a way that emphasizes what you can control. This practice will help you develop resilience and foster a sense of peace, knowing that you are in charge of your own reactions, regardless of the circumstances. The next practice is one that's timeless, connecting with nature. Whether it's a walk in the park, a hike in the mountains, or simply sitting in your backyard, spending time in nature is one of the most effective ways to reduce anxiety and find peace. Nature has a calming effect on the mind and body, helping to lower stress levels, improve mood, and increase overall well-being. But in our busy, technology-driven lives, it's easy to overlook the healing power of nature. To make nature a regular part of your life, Start by scheduling time each week to immerse yourself in the outdoors. It doesn't have to be a long hike or a weekend getaway. Simply spending 10 to 15 minutes in a green space can have profound benefits. If possible, try to disconnect from technology during these moments, allowing yourself to fully engage with the natural world around you. Pay attention to the sounds, the smells, and the sensations of nature. Let these moments help you clear your mind and reconnect with the present moment. Additionally, incorporating yoga and breathwork into your daily routine can be an incredibly powerful tool for reducing anxiety. As we've learned, these practices have been used for thousands of years to promote inner peace, balance, and calm. Yoga, with its combination of movement, breath, and meditation, is a holistic practice that helps to release tension in the body and quiet the mind. Whether you're doing a full yoga session or simply practicing a few stretches and breathing exercises, the benefits are undeniable. Start by setting aside a few minutes each day for a brief yoga practice or breathwork session. You don't need to be a seasoned yogi to experience the benefits. Begin with simple poses or breathing exercises that focus on grounding and relaxation. The key is consistency. By making yoga and breathwork a daily practice, you'll be creating a habit that helps you stay centered and calm even in stressful situations. Lastly, storytelling and reflection can also be integrated into your daily life. As we've seen, storytelling has been used for centuries as a way to process emotions, find meaning, and reduce anxiety. You don't need to write epic tales or pass down myths to experience the benefits of storytelling. The act of reflecting on your own experiences, whether through journaling, talking with a friend, or simply recounting a moment from your day, can help you process your emotions and gain perspective on life's challenges. Try setting aside time each evening to reflect on your day. You can do this through journaling, meditation, or even a conversation with a loved one. By telling your story, you're allowing yourself to understand your emotions, make sense of your experiences, and ultimately find peace in the process. The key to integrating these ancient practices into your modern life is consistency and intention. It's not about finding a perfect, stress-free life. It's about creating a daily routine that nurtures your mind, body, and spirit. By making these practices a regular part of your life, you'll be cultivating a sense of peace that will stay with you no matter what challenges you face. It's important to remember that peace is a journey, not a destination. There will be days when anxiety creeps in, when stress takes over, and when life feels overwhelming. But by building a foundation of ancient practices, you'll have the tools to navigate those moments with calm and resilience. Whether it's through mindfulness, Stoic reflection, yoga, or simply spending time in nature, these practices offer timeless wisdom that can help you find peace in a modern world. As we reach the end of this journey, I hope you found inspiration and insight from the ancient methods that have stood the test of time. These practices are not just relics of the past, they are living tools that we can use to navigate the complexities of our modern lives. By integrating them into your daily routine, you're not only honoring the wisdom of the ancients, you're creating a path to lasting peace and tranquility in your own life. As we move forward, let's reflect on how the ancient practices we've explored can truly transform our lives in practical, everyday ways. The tools of mindfulness, Stoic reflection, yoga, nature immersion, and storytelling are not just theoretical ideas, they are actionable practices that, when applied consistently, can create profound shifts in how we experience and navigate life. The beauty of these ancient techniques is their simplicity. They do not require grand gestures or complex systems, but rather a commitment to small, intentional acts that cultivate inner peace and mental clarity. In today's fast paced world, it's easy to feel as though we're constantly in a state of flux, moving from one task to another, always reacting to external stimuli, and often feeling disconnected from ourselves. It's a cycle of stress and anxiety that many of us know all too well. But the key to breaking this cycle lies in the ancient wisdom we've discussed. By incorporating these practices into our daily routines, we can start to shift our focus inward, learning to control our responses to external events rather than letting those events control us. Mindfulness, for example, is not just about meditation, it's about learning to be present in each moment, no matter how mundane. Imagine how different your day would be if, instead of rushing through tasks, you approached each one with full awareness. Whether you're eating, working, or walking, mindfulness allows you to experience life as it happens without getting lost in worry or distraction. By taking a few minutes each day to practice mindfulness, you're training your mind to stay grounded in the present, reducing anxiety and fostering a deeper connection with the world around you. Similarly, the Stoic practice of reframing our thoughts and reactions is a powerful tool for reducing anxiety. The Stoics taught that we should focus only on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and responses, and let go of what we cannot. In today's world, this practice is more relevant than ever. We are bombarded daily with things that are beyond our control, from global events to personal challenges. The Stoic mindset helps us approach these challenges with calm and clarity, recognizing that our peace doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on how we choose to respond. Incorporating this Stoic practice into your life can be as simple as pausing for a moment when faced with stress or anxiety and asking yourself, what is within my control here? By focusing on what you can influence, you free yourself from the emotional weight of things outside your grasp. This shift in perspective can dramatically reduce feelings of helplessness and empower you to take action where you can. Yoga and breath work are two more ancient practices that have found a powerful place in modern wellness. These practices are particularly effective in managing the physical manifestations of stress, such as muscle tension, shallow breathing, and a racing heart. Yoga, with its combination of physical postures, breath control, and meditation, helps to balance the body and mind, reducing physical tension and promoting mental clarity. Just a few minutes of yoga each day can help release the stress and tension that build up throughout the day, leaving you feeling more centered and peaceful. Breathwork, too, is a simple yet effective tool for calming the nervous system. The ancient practice of pranayama teaches us to regulate our breath to influence our state of mind. By practicing deep, slow breathing, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps us relax and recover from stress. You can incorporate breath work into your daily routine in just a few minutes, whether it's before a meeting, during a break, or before bed. Taking a few slow, intentional breaths to reset your mind and body. Over time, these small moments of breathwork can help reduce overall anxiety and increase your sense of calm. Nature, as we've learned, is another timeless tool for reducing stress. It's not just about spending long hours hiking through the mountains or going on weekend retreats, though those are certainly beneficial. It's about bringing the healing power of nature into your daily life. You can start by making a conscious effort to spend time outdoors each day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Whether it's walking in the park, sitting under a tree, or simply enjoying the natural beauty around you, these moments can have a profound impact on your mental health. The act of immersing yourself in nature's quiet rhythms helps to restore balance, calm your mind, and ground you in the present moment. Finally, storytelling and reflection offer a powerful way to process our emotions and reduce anxiety. By reflecting on our experiences and telling our stories, whether through journaling, conversations, or creative expression, we gain perspective and clarity. Storytelling allows us to make sense of our lives, find meaning in our struggles, and reconnect with our own narratives. It also helps us process difficult emotions and gain insight into how we can move forward with peace and resilience. By integrating storytelling into your daily life, you create space for self-reflection, emotional processing, and a deeper understanding of your journey. As you begin to weave these ancient practices into your daily routine, it's important to remember that the goal is not perfection. Peace and tranquility aren't about eliminating stress entirely. They're about learning to navigate stress with greater awareness, resilience, and calm. It's about creating habits that support your mental, emotional, and physical well-being so that when life's challenges arise, you have the tools to meet them with clarity and grace. In the end, these ancient practices are not just for those who lived thousands of years ago. They are for all of us, right here, right now. By making space for mindfulness, Stoic reflection, yoga, breathwork, nature, and storytelling in our modern lives, we can cultivate a sense of inner peace that transcends the noise and chaos of the world around us. The wisdom of the ancients is not just a distant memory, it's a living, breathing tool that we can use every day to navigate life with greater ease, balance, and peace. As we conclude this journey, I encourage you to take these practices and make them your own. Start small with one or two practices that resonate with you and gradually build them into your daily life. The road to peace is not a straight path, but with each step, you'll find yourself more grounded, more resilient, and more at peace with the world around you.